I'd like you to take a minute and think about the most useless part of your job, the most pointless thing you have to do all day, and it happens every day or regularly, and it just feels like a complete waste of time. Take a minute and think about that. I'm Melanie. Welcome to This Week at Little Hills, and today we're going to be talking about the book of Ecclesiastes. Now, when I think about something pointless, I think about several years ago, I had a job for a little while as a recess monitor at my kids' school. And something we were supposed to do as part of that job was, after every recess, gather all the recess balls that the kids had played kickball and dodgeball and other things with. We were supposed to gather them all, put them all in these big buckets. And this was a part of our job. This was something that we were expected to do. And the thing about that, I mean, it sounds good, but the thing about that was every time the next class would come out, they would immediately go straight for those buckets, take those balls out, and throw them again. They would be all over the place within about a minute. So it felt pointless, and especially on hot days where you'd have to walk across this giant playground to find all these things that were scattered, collect them, and then they would immediately get lost again. That a lot of things about our lives feel kind of pointless like that. And the author of the book of Ecclesiastes spent some time digging into that. Why does life feel pointless? And one of the key verses there is in the first chapter. And it reads, "Vanity of vanities, says the preacher, vanity of vanities. All is vanity. What does man gain by all the toil at which he toils under the sun?" And that's chapter 1, verses 2 and 3. Now that word vanity that he uses, that's the Hebrew word hebel, which basically has the connotation of breath, vapor. It's mist. It's just all transitory. It's over with, and then it's gone. So this book, there's 12 chapters in there dealing with the meaninglessness of life. Well, what does life mean? And the preacher goes through, and as you know, he tries all these different things. He tries being happy in the moment. He tries gaining wisdom, and ultimately it's all meaningless. And I really like that the book of Ecclesiastes is in there because it gives us permission to struggle with that. Because a lot of times if we're not trying to live in false positivity, we have to admit that there is a lot about life that makes zero sense. We live our years and then we die. Everybody does. And after it's over, our things eventually get thrown away. People forget us. That there's nothing really, as the preacher in that book says of Ecclesiastes, there's nothing under the sun. Everything is meaningless. It just all fades away like a vapor. Which sounds really depressing. But the good news is that it doesn't end there. The author of Ecclesiastes didn't have the full picture yet, because what we come to eventually is, besides just our lives under the sun, is the answer is Christ. Because when he came, he told us he is the way, the truth, and the life. He is the way to find meaning in our lives, because he is eternal. He's not under the sun. He is the one that is forever. And so I'm really glad that the book of Ecclesiastes wasn't the end of the story, because there's just so much more for us to find in our lives. And Jesus's death on the cross fulfilled all that meaninglessness that's in Ecclesiastes. He was persecuted. He was put to death unjustly. He was righteous, and he had to pay the price for our unrighteousness, which in Ecclesiastes it says that is part of our lives, is that unjust things happen. Jesus took all that injustice upon himself and made meaning out of it. He's conquered all of it in the resurrection because he defeated it. So our question for the week, how does living with an eternal perspective bring meaning to our lives? So think about that for a minute. That meaningless thing that you thought about in your job or in your life that just feels completely useless. How can living with an eternal perspective help us with that? For me, when thinking about those years when I was a recess monitor and doing those things that felt completely pointless, the thing that made it meaningful for me was that I got to work at the school with my children. That was the whole reason I took that job, was to be with them in their school. And it made it meaningful because I had a relationship with my kids, and that made it have a reason to be there. In the same way, we can take the mundane and meaningless parts of our lives, and if we have a relationship with Jesus, we can use those things to bring glory to God. Because if we're supposed to let everything we do be to the glory of God. So if we keep our relationship with Him in the forefront of our minds as we're doing those things, we can find meaning there, and we can know that this life isn't the end, that Ecclesiastes isn't the end of the story, but we have permission to deal with it and struggle with it, but ultimately we need to find the answer in Jesus Christ. So thank you for joining us, and we hope to see you this weekend at our services, online or in person. We'll see you next week. Bye.